Not too long ago, I wrote about Zelda Clones for TheGamer, and now I'm finally catching up with a video listicle on that topic. And I'm just going to go quickly through them. You can go into more detail, of course, in the article that I have linked in the description below. But here are 15 games, both good and bad, that are basically Zelda ripoffs. First of all, we have Darksiders, which is probably the most prolific AAA game that's ever come out. You are a horseman of the apocalypse, you're sent to Earth before Earth is supposed to be in the apocalypse, and you're trying to figure out what the hell is going on with the demons and the angels. And there's a portal gun in there, and there's other homages, let's say in quotes, to other games. But for the most part, it's really, really good. And sure, it may borrow some things from a lot of different games and their formulas, but I still think it's good on its own, and I think it's underappreciated. Next, we have 3D Game Heroes, which is basically a 3D pixel remake of the original Legend of Zelda. It's very cute, it's very hard, just like the first one, the map. The only cool thing I really like about this is you get to make your own character, and your sword is gigantic when you are at full health instead of shooting a beam, which is kind of cool. But again, it's just kind of very, very blatant. It's okay, but I wasn't that much of a fan of it compared to a lot of other people. Oh my gosh, Okami, I've probably written about Okami and talked about Okami in a lot of these videos, so I'll spare you. It's just a fantastic game. You're this wolf god who's kind of lost her powers and her memory, and you have this little Navi type little fairy by your side, and everyone's talking in the gibberish just like in The Legend of Zelda. But it's just such a beautiful world because of the watercolor cell shading, and the combat's pretty fun too, and it's just a long experience, and I love it a lot because of nostalgia, and it was a birthday present from an old forgotten girlfriend, and yeah, just a lot of memories tied to this game. It's really, really good. If there's one game on its entire list that you should go play that you just haven't and stubbed your nose at and thought, it's just a Zelda clone, you should play this game. Like 3D Game Heroes, Evoland was also a cool concept that I liked, but it should have been a shorter kind of documentary experience where you begin the game and you can't use any kind of mechanics, and you get treasure chests and they unlock things like different colors or the ability to talk to things or the ability to hit things or unlocking a health bar. It's kind of a cool evolution of not just Zelda, but RPGs overall, and just kind of 8-bit games to 16 bits, and yeah, it kind of should have just stopped. It's it's a novel concept, but not altogether well thought out. Ys is a long-running series that is very hard to describe. Basically, every single game, you're this character, Adel Christian. It's just another adventure in his life, and Ys the Olfenfeldana is a remake of the third game. Remade for the PSP. And this was the first one I tackled, and I loved it. I didn't know how much of an action RPG it really was, and in terms of combat, it blows Zelda out of the water for sure. There's not that many puzzles. There kind of is, but it's kind of a light Zelda. Not quite. It's more like an action RPG, and it's its own thing going on. But it's close enough to Zelda that I thought it was worth talking about. On to another negative, we have Adventure Time: The Secret of the Nameless Kingdom, which was basically an homage to A Link to the Past, which is my favorite Legend of Zelda. And I do like the Adventure Time cartoon, but it kind of didn't quite get the whole grasp of what made A Link to the Past so great. Yeah, you can explore the world right away, and there's a lot of open paths, but it's just kind of menial. Nothing is really pushing you forward that much, and it was a novel attempt, but just like Evoland, not well thought out. Final Fantasy Adventure is another nostalgia trip for me. It was a birthday present for my brother. He bought me this game and my first Game Boy, which was actually a Game Boy Color. It was fantastic. I remember being lost with the whole Palm Trees and 8. If you play that game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But for the most part, it is not a Final Fantasy game. It's actually the first game in the Mana series, and it's a whole other thing that I go into in another video on the Mana retrospective. But yeah, it's a really cool game. It's more RPG than it is Zelda, but it's still very close to what Link's Awakening was, but actually I think this game is a bit better than that. Oh boy. Alright, Golden Axe Warrior really threw me at a loop. I didn't know that this thing existed. Golden Axe is a brawler series that premiered in arcades and for Sega. It's an okay, it's more like a weapon-based brawler than it is a fist 'em up, beat 'em up. I could not believe when I discovered this game that Golden Axe Warrior is just the most blatant ripoff of Zelda you have ever seen. It's okay, but it's really hard to look past how much they really copied things. Just from the map layout to the monster design to the way that it's right next to water, it is super strange. It's not that bad, it's just kind of, I don't know, bizarre? Oceanhorn, Monster of the Uncharted Seas, is also a very blatant clone of Zelda that first came out for the iOS, but just last year I was able to play the PS4 port, and it is an homage to the Wind Waker, of course. You know, there's a lot of problems with it. The dungeon design isn't that great, everything kind of looks the same, and there's maybe some control issues, but I think it's a very cool, again, homage to the Wind Waker, and it's not that bad. It does have a lot of originality to it too, and hopefully the second game will kind of fix a lot of the problems that I had with the first. Neutopia is 2 games, but it's also pretty much what I had to gripe about with Golden Axe Warrior, whereas it is very close to a just blatant ripoff of Zelda. Not saying that that's not good, it's okay. I never had a Sega console growing up, so there's a lot of games that I missed out on. For example, Beyond Oasis, which is kind of like an Arabian Legend of Zelda, or I should say A Link to the Past. Very cool art, very great music. It even has like a really cool intro cutscene that just looks fantastic. It is awesome. It's probably one of the best Sega games out there that I actually pushed myself to play and finish because I just liked it that much. And now it kind of gave me the Sega bug to actually go on and see if there's any other awesome things that I missed aside from Sonic, which I actually don't think is that good. But that's for another story. Does anybody remember the movie Monster House? No, of course you don't. Well, you probably never played the Game Boy Advance game of it, and I skipped a lot of these movie tie-in games as well. Why the hell would I waste my time on that when it originally came out when I was in college, probably, or maybe it was in high school, whenever it came out. Either way, obviously I ignored it, but I was actually surprised that it is basically another Link to the Past kind of thing. You can play these 3 kids, you have water guns to shoot monsters that are possessing things, or I should say they're probably more like ghosts possessing things and shooting chairs. It actually looks pretty good, except for the kids. The kids have a weird 3D in a isometric kind of view. It looks kind of weird, but everything else looks pretty good drawn out. It's not the greatest, but in terms of some developer being pushed to make this movie tie-in game and actually making it as a Zelda game, kind of like Adventure Time is, I guess, commendable, I suppose is the right word. Just like Sega, there's a lot of Nintendo games that I missed out on growing up, especially because I don't live in Japan, so of course I was not able to play the Samurai Lord Musashi Gimmicks on the Run, which is of course a translated version of the more long title that I cannot pronounce. So I'll just go with that one. It's based off of an anime of a samurai, but it kind of looks more like a Gundam. If you've ever watched that Chibi Gundam show, that's not that great, but I got a little bit of a soft spot for when I was watching Toonami back in the day. But it is just a very beautiful Nintendo game, or I guess I should say Famicom game since it's Japanese. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's also kind of an RPG, more akin to Final Fantasy Adventure. You can buy items in shops, upgrade weapons and abilities, and like I said, it's just very cute. Beyond Good and Evil, I was not impressed at when they showed for E3, but I have been wanting a sequel for a long time, even though I'm not that big of a fan of this. And it's kind of actually weird to put this on the list in general, because I don't think it's that much of a Zelda game, but it does have a cool overworld and kind of a lot of good lore to it. And I guess technically it's an action RPG, I suppose. suppose, but you're not really going into dungeons that much. I don't know, I was kind of pushed to add this one to that list, I will just say. But yeah, it's a good game. I'm not sure if it has a lot of ties to Zelda, but finally I want to give a shout out to Gunple, Gunman Proof, which is another clone of A Link to the Past. And it's like A Link to the Past mixed with Earthbound. And it's a Western. And it's another gorgeous, beautiful, super colorful game, super wacky. You're just this kid that kind of actually looks like Cran Shinchan, but a cowboy, and you're fighting these alien bandits that kind of look like they are dominatrix enthusiasts, and there's monsters around, and the first dungeon for sure has a boss that is very reminiscent of the Link to the Past Dancing Night ones, or at least the dungeon layout is kind of similar to that first dungeon in Link to the Past. But yeah, it's just hilarious, and I can't believe we never got this game, but that's because it came out so late in the Super Nintendo life cycle, or I guess Super Famicom life cycle. That's why we never really got it. But, of course, there's an English translation out there. Thank you, fans, for that. And thank you for listening to this long rant on Zelda Clones. Yeah, there's a lot of homages and rip-offs in here, but I think a lot of these are actually pretty good if you want to celebrate Zelda in a different way this year for the 30th anniversary in North America, which I, of course, will be covering in the next few days, but I thought we should kick things off with a different kind of start. So again, thank you for listening, and see you next time. Did you know that was a Reaction Examiner video? If you liked it, you should subscribe to me to keep up with everything that I'm doing. Also, if you have some other interests, like sex for example, check out Tomops, which is a comedy sex podcast thing wherein my best friend and I check out the weird and abnormal and the erotic. And of course, you should support me on Patreon because, hey, I want to make the channel better, and I want your help to do so. Plus, if you want to check out my writing, check out Game Jerk, where I have archives and new stuff for all projects, okay? You can find all the stuff and more in the description with the links below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.